So if you had to distill this change in Republican psychology that you think is necessary to save ourselves and therefore our country, would you define it as Republicans need to become more skeptical of the institutions, both cultural and governmental, in our country?
More skeptical, more fearless, more willing to use their own legitimate authority. So, for example, nothing stops the gangsterism of one side better than the other side saying, hey, listen, two can play at this game. And so, for example, if prominent Republican attorneys general start issuing indictments of prominent Democrats, and I'm not talking about bogus indictments, I'm talking about legitimate indictments. So, for example, indict Mayorkas. Why? Because child trafficking is going on in a large way in Arizona, and that's occurring in that state. And so an Arizona attorney general indicts Mayorkas and see where it goes. It's a constitutional crisis. Okay, let the Supreme Court sort it out. So the point being, if you do this, I mean, remember when Elon Musk banned a group of liberal journalists, maybe 5 or 6 of them, for one day on Twitter? They went nuts. They rediscovered all the virtues of free speech. They were quoting John Stuart Mill. I mean, they sounded like apostles of open debate and freedom. So the moment that they themselves are beginning to feel the sting of what they're doing, they begin to back off.
Which, by the way, was one of the most fun days on Twitter ever. I'm glad you brought that up because I had momentarily forgotten about when he punished them, put them in timeout just to hear them squeal and shout and call for no censorship and open debate and free speech. Talk about the role of COVID. You mentioned COVID. It's a very short part of the film here, but I think that you're correct when you say that it served as an accelerant to what January 6th had maybe already begun. I mean, I know the draconian COVID stuff happened before January 6th, but the censorship stuff really happened after, in 2021.
Yeah, the censorship before was limited to one issue. And by and large, it was like many of these digital platforms sort of canonized Fauci, and they said, if Fauci says it, it is science. So there was a kind of a comic stupidity to the whole thing. But nevertheless, it was limited to one issue. After January 6th, the issues expanded, of course, initially election fraud, but pretty soon there was a long list. And if you go now on the YouTube guidelines, you've got the trans issue, you've got abortion, you've got climate, you've got elections. So now it's basically censorship across the board. COVID added a few elements like restrictions on church attendance, which I don't think otherwise would ever have been enacted. That would never fly. But COVID allowed the left to exploit panic. Panic and fear are the great friends of the police state. The fear of a virus allows the left to seek wartime restrictions on people that they would never otherwise consent to.